Yes, a little bit about reflective practice as working in a tutor of higher education for a number of years. Um, and yes, I was asked by Fee Transa to think about this and talk to the students about what I thought about reflective practice. For me, I'm not a naturally reflective person. I'm very much an experiential learner. What I do is I go out and do it, and I don't think much about it until I've done it. And that's just my natural tendency. So then what happens is that I have to reflect quite a lot on when I've done it in order to make sense of it, really. Otherwise, I'm not going to learn from my experience and I'm going to do exactly the same again. Now, somebody like me, I'm an extrovert, and I believe that extrovert people, that's people who process their thoughts through talking to other people. Introverted people tend to be better theorists and reflectors, in my opinion, whereas extroverts aren't so good at reflecting and theorising. Because what they need to do is they need help, and I need help, and the thing that helps me is to talk to somebody else who knows me actually and who can challenge my thoughts and support me as a person to look at something differently and push me. So I need quite a high challenge in terms of my thought processes to think differently, and I also need to feel quite supported as a person so that I don't feel too threatened as an individual in that. So all of that then, when I'm dialoguing with another person about my experience and they're sort of questioning me and making me think about it, in that way then I'm able to properly reflect and reflect on my practice. Now some people have argued that people talk about reflective practice, but actually what people do a lot of the time is just justify themselves and justify their behaviour. And I agree, I think that's quite a good critique of reflective practice, and that's where I think again it's dangerous, introvert or extrovert, to purely do it on your own. I always think other people need to be included in that process so that your thoughts are shared, they become less private and more exposed to the fresh air of external opinion. And that way they then become a bit more rigorous and robust because you're forced to think as you exchange with another. And look at your position. And of course then it's important to pick up some different people, not ones who are likely to collude with your process of reflecting, but ones who will push you and challenge you. If you pick people who just think the same as you, what are you really going to learn? So I think it's important to talk to a few people about one's experience, perhaps sometimes people who will agree with you, but also people who won't and who will offer another view. And in that way then we tend to get the best learning from our experience. The other idea that is sometimes argued is the notion of double loop learning or parallel process, where you actually look at your learning and first of all reflect on your experience, and then reflect on what that might symbolise about an organisation. So I might have an experience, say, of going to the receptionist and asking to see somebody, and I might be treated very brusquely. And you can take that on a couple of levels. One level is she's having a bad day, she's not feeling very good, she's having a period, all different kinds of things. And you might also think, well, right, this is my first experience of this organisation. I've been dealt with quite brusquely. Is the organisation like this? Is that representing something about this organisation and the kind of welcome that you get? And indeed the opposite experience could happen as well. So you may feel very welcomed in an organisation and wonder whether, is this the experience, is this organisation something that is approachable and a welcoming place to be. So you have single loop and double loop learning there, and it's often useful to consider, once you've gone through that first little loop, of thinking, what does this mean about the situation that I'm in? So those really are the thoughts that I have about reflection at the moment. The thought is around practice, of course, and I can practice as a teacher or practice as a therapist, which is another profession that I'm in. And when we talk about reflective practice, clearly what we're wanting to do there is learn from our experience of practice. So I go into a room, I do a bit of teaching, perhaps somebody observes my practice, gives me some feedback, and they may say to me something like, I noticed that what you did was gave a lot of information and didn't really give the group a lot of time to discuss that. And so I can treat that on two levels, again, if we're talking single and double loop learning. One is I can say, okay, behaviourally what I do is I'm going to do only 10 minutes talking maximum, group work for, say, 20 minutes, say if we're talking a half-hour session, whatever. And I treat the behaviour and improve it and take some advice depending on the nature of the session and what we're actually trying to learn. Now as a double loop, that might be, all right, Amelia, you're giving out too much information and you're not giving people enough time to process it. Is that something that's thematic for you? Is that something that actually you would tend to do in many areas of your life? And in many areas of your practice. And if so, what's all that sort of filling up about? And what am I afraid of having, or do I have an issue about having too much space? Is that something that's a bit frightening for me to contemplate? If I leave too much space, maybe the class will get out of control. I need to fill it up. So in order to sort of feel in control, not let things run away too much. So, you can have a whole reflective process going on there in relation to, say, one. So as you can see, really, I'm somebody who uses people an awful lot to help me reflect, for better or for worse. Thank you.